Dr. Bindu is a singer, songwriter, and entrepreneur, author, and a music educator. She's described as a third-generation prodigy by several print medias. And she's also the founder and CEO of SAPA and SAPA in Schools. And we have Dr. Ambi here. He's a violinist, entrepreneur, and music educator. He's hailed as the new king of Indian classical violin. And he's also the co-founder and director of SAPA and SAPA in Schools. So let me now tell you about the most important creation by our speakers, that's SAPA. So that's what we're focusing on today. It's the Subramaniam Academy of Performing Arts. It was started in 2007 to be the home for great music and musicians. They now have 30,000 students and 100 of teachers. So yeah, it's a lot like NISA schools now. Let's just hope for the best. Someday we just do a tie-up. And also, I would like to tell each one of you who's watching this that this foundation was laid by none other than the legendary musicians Dr. 𝐿 Subramaniam and 𝐏𝐞𝐝𝐚𝐿 Subramaniam, which Dr. Bindu and Dr. Ambi and their team is trying to take forward every day. So now we're gonna, that was very formal. Now let's try talk and chat now. Okay, let's start. Okay, first question is to both of you. I just want to ask you, what music means to you, like each one of you. Anybody can start first.
Go ahead.
I think music is something that we don't define because it's such an important part of everybody's life, right? For us, music is sort of like the soundtrack to our entire life. It's a part of everything.
Yeah. I think for me, music has always been very special, and it's kind of hard to separate music from the rest of our lives. But I think music has kind of been a purpose for us. It's been a kind of companion for us in different times, and it's been a powerful motivator in other times.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, I think to the most of us, yes. So Dr. Bindu, so we know that how the recommendation came with NEP 2020, right? That's why we decided to have this ED Talk in the first place. And we mentioned earlier that NEP 2020 recognizes the importance of music education. And I want to ask you if you think that its inclusion has arrived pretty late to the school curriculum. What do you think about it?
So firstly, I think it's a great step that the National Education Policy has decided to recognize music, and not only music, but culture, theater, art, all of these things, because there's so much more than just math and science in school.
Exactly.
And we were fortunate to be able to sort of consult on that part of the curriculum with our father, to go there and sort of speak to them and see how music should be made a part of curriculum in schools. Whether it's late or not, I don't think is an important conversation to have. I think we should just be really grateful and happy that it's here now and see how we can make the most of it. Because I think there have been many people who've been trying to make music a part of curriculum for a long time. But now with the support of the NEP and the way things are going forward, I think it's really important to get the rest of the pieces in place, whether it's teacher training, curriculum, educating schools, educating parents on why this is important. So in some senses, I think it's come at a great time.
Yeah, definitely. When I was in school, I had a music teacher. I don't even know her name, actually. Now I think about it, that, we did not give much importance to music then. It was like that. But then we passed schools and now we just see, or like, your academy we see, and now how much importance we're giving to music and students. That's phenomenal, actually. That's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next question is for you, Dr. Ambi. So with changing times, we are coming to think of music as a skill more than a hobby these days, because I think a lot of parents take pride in telling other people that, oh, my child plays this instrument, my child can sing this, right? That's how it is. So I always think that since parents are deciding everything for the children today, I also want to know, when you started this academy, was it difficult for you to talk to them and have children in your academy in the first place? I mean, how was the whole struggling part? Was there any struggle also? I just want to know, how did you guys start with it?
Well, a couple of things. Like you said, I think now people are viewing it a little differently. So whether you want to become a musician or not, learning music has kind of become an important skill that parents are kind of looking at. So and also when you're looking at music, it's tough to kind of define it as a whole, because often there are so many different genres, there are different types of instruments, there are different classes within music that kids might be interested in. So I think for us also, when you're exposing children to music at a young age, it's important to kind of expose them to different types of music, and it's important to kind of expose them to different instruments, because you have situations where you might have a child who's sitting in one music classroom and not enjoying himself, but the
Yeah, we
moment
did that.
and he keeps looking, and we've seen this sometimes in Sapa also. Yeah, a kid may be sitting somewhere, and then he's looking, peering into the other room where another instrument is being played. The moment you put him in that class, he's completely, a different level of motivated and all of that. So I think it's important to give them access to as wide a range as possible. And once you're able to do that, you'll see them engaging in different ways, because you always see that kids all engage in their own ways. So
Yeah.
as long as you can kind of make that platform where they have a chance to do that, then as a parent, as an educator, as any of as a school, you're able to kind of bring out the best in each child.
Yes. So also, let's say when a student is coming to your school, how do they decide what kind of course are they taking? What's best for them? How do they decide this? Or you are the one who decides this for them?
So it's a combination. Sometimes kids and parents come with very specific kind of requests, so they know exactly what they want.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't. They want to kind of explore different things. So I think it's a combination of that, and as a teacher, it's also important to kind of keep your eyes and ears open and see what a child is really driven by, and then slowly, if a kind of shift needs to be made, or if a change needs to be made, then the teacher at that point will have kind of the say to kind of speak to the parents and recommend certain things.
Okay, so you both are teachers now, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Yes, very
think
much.
teaching is a really important part of the job.
Yeah, I think it never stops, right? Definitely.
Yeah.
So,
And
Dr.
I think there's very, very little that is as rewarding as being a teacher at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I just joined this organization like actually recent only, and I see, teachers take like they're very happy to make a sort of improvement in school and make a change. They really enjoy this, especially. So it's good to see.
Absolutely.
It's good to see that. So generally, in our organization, we talk about two things most importantly. That is affordability and quality education. That's what NISA is based on. Its foundation is that. So I want to ask you, Dr. Bindu, let's say NEP 2020 is also talking about quality education. So I want to know if there's a concept of quality music education with you. And how does it look like to a student who's coming to SAPA to learn it?
Well, firstly, I want to say that NISA's vision of both quality and affordability are critical, and I think that aligns very closely with what we think is important, and what we actually call it, in a combined way, is making music accessible to every child, because accessibility can be viewed from the point of view of affordability, but accessibility is also, quality and methodology which makes something appropriate for children. So yes, quality is extremely important to us, whether it is at our centers where we work with children or through our program in schools. And the way that we measure quality is how engaged we are able to make the students, right? Because obviously there's research, like you're saying, we have PhDs, there's a whole team of people, there's curriculum development, we've got audio content, we've got video content, we've got books, and all of that can be benchmarked as high quality, which is of course very critical. And then we've mapped out learning goals, we've got rubric, we've got learning objectives, we've got syllabus, we've got learning plans, all of that is there, right? And that to me is the basic. But for us, how we really measure the quality is the joy that a child has when he or she is engaging with music, the takeaways that they have when they're leaving the classroom, if they're still singing that song, that is quality for us, right? So for us, it's really important that everything, all the hard work that goes into creating something before it hits the classroom is of the highest quality, international global standards. But when we get into a classroom, we really measure ourselves on how we're able to engage with children and make them excited and passionate about music going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you see I mean, when you're looking at quality, like she said, there are a number of things. How we're kind of able to bring all children together, and how we're able to engage each one of them meaningfully. I think to the point of the last question, when talking about different children having have different interests. Sometimes when you're in a classroom of 30 or 35, um, each one may have slightly different interests. So how do you bring all of them together? How do you bring them as one? And how do you make community music relevant for all children there? So that's a big part of what we look at also when we're talking about quality.
I think engagement is a very difficult part of any classroom. I'm sure it must be a task for both of you to keep them engaged also, I'm sure, because they are only kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
Must be.
Kids are actually the best audiences because they're so honest.
Yeah,
You know, so it's really great actually to be able to keep kids engaged because you know exactly where you stand with them at any point in time.
Yeah, if you lost them, in 5 seconds you've lost them. So you can try something new.
Okay. Oh yeah, you just get them actually. Yeah, that's how they are. Very curious all the time. So Dr. Ambi, also when we were talking about the engagement and being teachers, in RTI Act 2009, the data said that every school should have one music teacher at least, and it's not like that in every school, especially the government schools. And post-pandemic, the PTR ratio, which is pupil-teacher ratio, has gone way below. And it was not very good also before the pandemic, but right now the situation has worsened actually in a way. So I just want to know, according to you, how can we approach this problem, that we just sort of address this, that yeah, we should have one music teacher in every classroom at least, so that students have they have the right to learn music also, and it's not taken away from them. So how do you think we should approach this?
Well, I think when we talk about this in government schools, I think it's also important to realize that most private schools also don't have
Yes.
music teachers in all of their schools. So I think that it's really nice that now that these things have come in and mandates are kind of there to have all of this. And I think that's where people like us come in, and institutions like SAPA come in, where we try to kind of bridge that gap. I think it's important, us as musicians were able to kind of help and provide that solution, where we're able to bring as many passionate music educators into schools. And the moment you have these passionate educators kind of in each school, then that's really when you see amazing change. So I think the government is doing what they can, but it's also important for institutions like us to kind of also
Yeah, exactly.
do our part.
Wow. I know. Oh, so it's so you go to schools and you tell them about yourself, that that's what you provide them. So is it what's the reaction like? How are they, like that they are ready to take it, or they're like just taking some time to they make decisions?
Well,
What is it?
I think the situation has probably changed since we've started. I think when we started, initially we would have to do a lot more convincing of the importance of music and
Some
music
begging,
education.
lots of
Sure.
convincing.
Yeah, so initially it was like, okay, fine. I mean, but then why are we wasting a period on something other than math and science, or something like that, or oh yeah, we already have somebody, but I don't know what they're doing. Then all of these issues we kind of faced initially. So now I think the situation is a lot better, and we kind of benefit from the fact that now people are slightly aware of what we do, and the kind of impact that we've had. So I think now that fight is not there, but for us, obviously, we are kind of we've done a very, very small chunk of what we want to do. So when
There's still a lot more to be done.
when we kind of look at the big picture, then we realize that there's so much more to be done. And and I think each year we're trying to kind of in look at everything and kind of evolve and improve, and try to see how we can kind of make music and music education more impactful for the situation currently.
No, but
Like,
it's
for example, we're seeing that even post-pandemic, one of the recent trends that we've been seeing is that toddlers are in very large numbers having speech delay, right? And that could be because they've been at home and they haven't been socialized. And we've been reading the research about this that's been coming out. So as a result of that, what we're doing with our new parent-toddler programs at SAPA is that we're taking that into account and seeing how we can help babies with slight speech delays as well.
Oh yeah, that's the thing I read about toddler training. That's very new to me. Yeah, I was coming on that. So okay, I mean, let's just say I do not know. I mean, I'm sure in the South it's very persistent. Like people really, I don't. I'm just talking about the North here. Let's just say that because I come from the North, and when I was in school, we were barely aware about the music. Like we have to. Of course, I love music. I love listening to it, but not like the way that I have to go and learn it from somebody. They'll teach me, and I'll sit there and listen to them. It was not like that. And of course, you're right that this trend has changed because parents are willing to send their children to learn something, and basically it's a skill now. And I think they love to do that. So yeah, I think it's not just a small chunk of it what you guys done. I think the idea itself is very big. It's almost like you could have done something else also, but you decided to do this, which is so good. That's nice actually. So yeah, so Dr. Bindu just talked about pandemic here. So I mean, yeah, during the pandemic, actually, most of us have shifted to online mode of teaching and learning also, and schools were closed, and a lot of reports came in where children, they regressed in terms of learning. There was like a big giant learning loss among them. So I want to just know that with music, this is my understanding that people can learn music, like face to face in the physicality of the arena. So how did you guys give classes during the pandemic, like, online? How did it work out? How was it for you? Did you enjoy it?
So firstly, I think we've enjoyed every part of this journey, even the difficult parts. But I do have to say that pre-pandemic, we were very keen that music learning happen in person. And we've been the sort of music educators and the sort of music school that says, music education is best had in a room, where the teacher is making eye contact with the students, and and there's a lot of meaning in that personal interaction. And then obviously the pandemic changed, and we had to change our opinions, right? Because we were looking at a situation where physical classes were no longer possible, but we didn't want online to be a poor excuse for in-person. We didn't want online to be a bad plan B. So we spent quite a lot of time figuring out in what way is online as good or better? What do we have to change besides our mindset to make online learning effective?
Yeah, and I think to that point, especially in schools, our kind of learning goals also changed. And when we're looking at what kids are kind of going through um, the rest of the day and during other classes and all of that, we were kind of trying to see if music can kind of be this one time where they can kind of forget everything else. And if we could see how we could kind of bring that community engagement within kids, because a lot of times when they were kind of learning online, everybody's kind of in their own box, and they're not allowed to talk, and they're not kind of having that experience of sitting next to their friend, and a lot of learning, a lot of all around development kind of also happens between classes when you're waiting for the next teacher to come in. So all of that was kind of lost to some extent. So we were also looking at a number of ways of how we can bring in those aspects. And coming to music education, also what we did is we tried to use different aspects of technology to make the online experience a little better. And like she said, we weren't trying to really recreate the physical experience, but just over Zoom or Teams or one of those things, because then it's never going to be the same. It's never going to be as good. But we were trying to see how we could use some tech to make it useful and make it a different experience for kids.
So I think you guys are giving physical classes right now, right? Now it's opened. Okay,
Yes, yes.
every day a week? Or is there like, because Nilama told me that she's working from home for 2 days a week. So classes are every day?
Yeah, the center runs every day.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good. Just hope that nothing strikes us and, it just keeps running. We've already lost a lot of things. I know. So I think during the pandemic, when we were sitting at home and taking classes, as Dr. Ambi said, through a box, basically, I think we could not recreate those relations with students, our friends or teachers as such. So did you ever feel like that, you are feeling like such a disconnect with your students, like you would go to class there, in physical form and just sit with them and there's a sort of connection. Do you feel that that's affected somehow during the pandemic?
I think we had to work a lot harder to maintain the connections with students, honestly. And I think that it has been difficult for kids, to stay motivated and to switch their video on when it's easy to just kind of stay in bed with the video off. So
Exactly. Yeah.
it has been a challenge, but I think it put more of an onus on us as educators to keep showing up for the kids and keep trying to make those connections.
yeah, absolutely. I think, like she said, there had to be a lot more effort from our side, and I think so. Whether it's kind of 5 minutes in the beginning and another 5 minutes at the end, where you're kind of making sure that um, if you're sitting with kids, they're kind of telling you about their week. Sometimes, like when I do classes, it's not with 30 kids, it's with 3 or 4. So so then there's a kind of conversation that you need to make sure that you're having, and sometimes they tell you about a trip they had, or about an exam that was particularly bad, or any of those things. So I think that's very important, to kind of consciously do that and keep that going. So that level of comfort should always be there. um, and probably that's something that um, maybe a little easier in person, because when you're kind of unpacking your case, you're talking or you're doing something. But then when you're online, it's like, okay, you switched on the thing, you're ready to start. So
Yeah, I think it was. I think you were very careless during like when the pandemic. I mean, pandemic is still there, of course, but when we were online. So I think when I was doing my master, I think I used to just like keep my phone and on, and I would just teachers just speaking, because it's very monotonous to hear somebody through the screen. So yeah. So you just told me that the size of the class is generally 3 to 4 kids, right? For you, that's how it is.
right. So we have two things. One is our academy, and one is our SAPA in schools.
Okay.
So in our academy, our batch sizes are a little smaller. Those are kind of your after school, a weekend kind of classes, and there a number of students kind of want to become professional musicians, and that's the focus there.
Okay.
In SAPA in schools, we work with an entire section or entire class. So there, the idea is to make sure that everyone has access to good music education, and everybody learns to kind of love music, and music is a tool that can be used to teach other skills as well.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it's going to do wonders, I think, if you were starting. Like, all the best to both of you with this. So let's say we have budget private schools in NISA. So I don't think so. I mean, students know the concept of music, but not like this. So I also want to know, you have these resources and books, right? Which you prepare for the kids. So do you guys go through a diagnostic test once in a while to like go through them, maybe change them or revise them? Like, is there a need to do that for you guys with your textbooks?
Absolutely. I mean, that happens all the time. So
Okay.
I think, and one nice thing is that since we're able to do this, and we're not necessarily governed by a very structured external curriculum, we're able to kind of modify our curriculum as we see fit, and it's really nice that we're able to be very agile. So we kind of keep changing it every year, making tweaks based on either student feedback or teacher feedback, or like, for example, these 2 years the curriculum has been quite different
Yes, yes.
because of the needs and what we've been looking at. And again, the coming year is going to be quite different from these 2 years. So it's nice, and that's something we are always looking to tweak, improve, better in many different ways.
I think that's the good part about independent academies, actually. They're not governed by anything, so they can just decide, what curriculum they want to design. I think 2 days ago, we had this conference in Indian Habitat Center. So we had a CBSE head of science there. Okay, I think we're running out of time. So, okay, let's just wrap it up very quickly. So that was very enlightening for all of us. And we hope to see you once again. Maybe a tie-up with NISA schools would be great. We hope to see you one day in our office also. Thank you so much for both of you. It was such a pleasure and such a privilege to host you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you everybody for watching. See ya. Bye.